And with that strategy, it really goes back to kind of business 101 is you pick your strategy, and the hyper growth strategy has consequences. The founder will get you're going to raise more money, so you're going to get diluted more. You're going to have, more cooks in the kitchen because you have more shareholders. You're going to get institutional shareholders, which are, big chefs in the kitchen. So it starts with, it always starts with a startup is what's the founder's vision and the founder's strategy. And there's implications to those paths. So that's one of the big learnings. Now, every single PowerPoint that I had for the last 6 years was speed and scale. Like that was the theme. So me, and then the board were all aligned to speed and scale because keto was just taking off, and being first to market. If you're a marketer, you know that being first to market has a lot of value. So our mantra was speed and scale. So we were making decisions that perhaps other founders or other brands would make to slow things down, where you would spend less because you're not chasing revenue as much, and you just want to go slower. All strategies are valid strategies, but they're all connected.
Hello, Suzie. How are you today?
I'm great. I'm thrilled to be here on a happy Friday. Perfect way to end the week together.
Yes. Awesome. I'm so excited to have you here. I'm having a little bit of a moment, like a celebrity crush. I don't want to say girl crush. I'm gonna say celebrity crush because I've been like in awe of you for such a long time. So I was in, and okay, I still think of Good Fats as Suzie Good Fats. So like it's in my head, it's still Suzie Good Fats, but I was introduced to your brand like years ago when the whole keto thing started, and it was a coworker that was completely into your bars, and she introduced me to it. And I never thought this moment would be here where I'm like interviewing you for this podcast. So I am super pumped and excited. And I think I sent you a message the other day. Every time I go on LinkedIn, you are so inspiring. There's so many things that you're doing, and I am just so proud and like so excited for you. And I cannot wait to dive into this so the rest of the audience can share in that excitement. So I'm going to stop talking now and let you take it away and share and let the audience know who you are and your background and what you're doing.
Perfect. Crushes and girl crushes are all good. I'm just, I just basically, started a company at age 50 with Love Good Fats, and Susie's Good Fats, which I didn't change the name to Love's Good Fats. That was 5 years ago, and it just took off. I was blessed with having some good marketing background, so I was able to both, to build the brand and to lead the company and be able to manage the growth, because we grew incredibly fast from 100,000 the first year to then very quickly 8 million the first 12 months, and then 47 million. So it was just like explosive growth, and then we won all these awards and we smashed all these records for Canadian startups, and then we launched in the US. So it's just been a whirlwind 5 years. And then I stepped away from the day to day of managing, being the CEO of the company through COVID, and we hired a CEO that has more experience, and I'm just on the board. I'm still the largest shareholder, and then I had the opportunity to meet who is now my partner and come up with another business idea. And I never thought I would launch. Who thought I would launch my first brand at age 50? Now I'm launching my second brand at age 55. But it's too good of a business opportunity. So I'm back at it, and, bootstrapping, dining room tables, spending my life savings with my partner this time. And, we're back at it, and we're going to be living in the stores, living in the shows, living with consumers, at events. So we're pretty excited. It's definitely a nerve-wracking life phase to be, no money, not making any money, and spending a lot of money to launch a brand. But the brand idea is so strong, and the partnership with my partner Alejandro from Ecuador to bring us the chocolates is so good. These are our chocolates that it just kind of makes a lot of sense. So we can chat a little bit about that. You may want me to take a step back and talk about the story of Love Good Fats, maybe.
Yes, that would be great. I'd love for you to talk about, you mentioned you launched it when you were 50, and I read this quote where you said you told your mom at 15 you're gonna run your own business, and you did it at age 50, which I think is awesome. So give us that background, tell us that story, and just how it came about.
Well, I think a lot of big kind of life moments happen with my inner voice, my inner goddess. Just I kind of knew, I knew what I wanted to do or what needed to happen, and like the chips just fall into place at the right time. So for 35 years, I had the three perfect excuses why everybody doesn't start a company. Right? Oh, I don't have an idea. I don't have time, and because my kids, I'm a mom, I don't have time, and then I don't have money. So I had been a VP of marketing for 10 years. After a great career, I started Procter Gamble, and I went to Frito-Lay and then Heinz and Weight Watchers as an marketing executive. So I was having a great career as a marketing executive, and then I took my last full-time job. I was just doing consulting, so I was fractional marketing executive for a bunch of companies, and I really like that because I'll get bored quickly. And it's kind of great to work for four smaller brands or two smaller brands. And that was allowing me through do consulting, to get a little bit higher income and to be immersed in ideas all the time. So then the time just came. I read a book, The Big Fat Surprise by Nina Teicholz, and it said, we've all been duped for 40 years. Fats are good. Sugar was a culprit back then, still is today. I changed my diet because my health was really struggling in 2014 to 2017. My IBS, my blood pressure just really, really was kind of raging out of control. I was on prescription meds, and I just was feeling miserable all the time. So I read the book, and I'm like, okay, I'm finally going to kick the sugar habit by eating good fats. So that day I started loading up. Like I stopped being fearful of high fat cream, and bulletproof coffees were really popular back then. I didn't like the taste of butter in my coffee, but I really like coconut oil. So I started supplementing coconut oil in my coffee, and I started making sure that I was fueled with good fats, the good omega-3s, even the saturated fats, the bacon and the cheese and the butters. I reintroduced all of those in my diet. Tried to have more omega-3s to not really have too much, of the bad omega-6s and processed vegetable oils. Those are not good fats, and certainly no trans fats or fried. Even though I do eat fried foods, they're not good fats. But I kind of balance, and by shifting and having fats now, I stopped my cravings for sugar. My blood pressure started going down and down, so I was able to get off my medicines. Even though I was doing yoga every day, I was running every other day. It all kind of came together. My tummy settled. So not only, was I launching a brand, but it really became a personal message for me to tell the world, fats, a lot of the fats are good, and fats are essential. They're called essential fatty acids for a reason. There's no essential sugars or anything like that, right? You have essential fatty acids and essential amino acids, the proteins, but there's no essential sugar or carbs. So that made a huge difference for me. And then the brand is really with a mission to tell the world that, fats are back, sugar's out, and your body needs fats. Now there's so much research on Alzheimer's, and of course, reversal of diabetes has been shown with a keto diet, etc. Um, the COVID hit just as we were launching in the US. So we had like 3 phenomenal years. We launched in September 2017, and all of 18, we grew the brand in Canada. 19, we started a test in Whole Foods US, and we kept growing Canada, and we're in Costco and Walmart. COVID hit in 20, so it slowed down our growth a little bit. We're still, a multi-million-dollar brand in Canada, and we're launching some more innovation. There's the good fats thins out there, like some chocolates, and then I was like, okay, now I'm age 55. I don't have the full-time CEO job of Live Good Fats, and I happen to meet my partner now, Alejandro, who has a chocolate bean to bar fair trade, single source factory in Ecuador. And we came up with, okay, like let's launch chocolates that are infused with MCT oil, so with good fats, and some of them have protein, some of them have adaptogens, all of them have vitamin and supplements. And that's what we're doing now.
Yeah, so exciting. And your energy is like unbelievable. It's insane. I love that. So tell us, Suzie, in terms of what you've learned through Good Fats and that whole process you went through. Obviously, you were brand new to launching a brand and bringing a product to market. I think I read this. I read an article where where you had this interview and you were talking about female founders going from left to right when it comes to getting cash and liquidity in your business. I think there was like when you were looking to just do two bars, two like flavors, 100,000 run,
10 stores, yeah, yeah.
right? It would have cost you like 200,000, right?
Just for the product is 200, and it's similar now. We're doing one container, and each container is 2 to 300 by the time. So it's really hard. There's some startups that you can start, and you see the founders, they're in their kitchen, and they can manage with 12,000 for this, and then another 15,000 for another little bit here and there. But unfortunately, in bars, and especially I was doing high fat bars where there's no binding agent because there's no carbs or sugar. So it was a very new technique. There's 30 co-packers that said, go away. We don't want your bars on our machines, and we can't make them. We can make you a protein bar, but we can't make you a fats bar. So there was issues with like the co-man. And most of these co-mans, prior to COVID, bars were exploding. So there was not a lot of available capacity in co-manufacturers that made bars, and they were already busy making a lot of bars for all of the growing brands. So it was really, really hard to get someone to accept to make your bars. And they're basically taking a bit of a chance on you, because they're going to use up time and energy for a bar brand that may not work. So it's really, really, really hard. And the minimum is 100,000. So times two is 200,000. And you just do the math of the price of a bar and then packaging and all that. And it's like, just, okay, you need 200 just to turn the machines on. It's a little bit similar this time, where there's lots of videos of me at the plant, and we're making these chocolates one by one. But we're making a container, and then the container will come to Canada and through Montreal, and it will come to the US through New Jersey. So it's a full container. It's really expensive to ship part containers. So we kind of have to take a chance and kind of launch our first production, and kind of do a whole container. But we have great partners in Canada with UNFI distributor and Purity Life, and they're going to get us in stores, and then we're going to do a second container, and then another one, and then off you go.
Yeah, definitely. So talk us through that process. When you talk about going left to right when it comes to financing and being able to like utilize all the resources that are out there and available to us, can you explain that and talk us through how you utilize that strategy when you launched Good Fats?
For startups, and the world has changed quite a bit in the last 5 years, and then COVID has created some more changes to the change world. When I launched in 17, there was hardly any angel investors in food, and hardly any in Canada. Um, there's a few, Arlene with District Ventures back then, now it's called Venture Park, is a huge supporter of startups. But you really, all the advice that I got, and I had some people give me books and articles, basically just go find angel investors. Um, and when it's your first startup and you don't have a proven track record that you not only know how to build a brand, but you know how to build a company, you really have to just go to, friends and families and kind of say, look, do you want to be an angel investor? There's also kind of a list of resources that now there's an even longer list that you kind of go through the list and say, okay, well, I need a little bit of angel money. Like, who will believe in me and believe that, I have a good, the three P's, I have a good, or four P's, I have a good positioning, I have a great product, I have the right price value, and I have a good P&L. Okay, so who wants to kind of believe that, I have all of this and I have what it takes to pull it together and to lead a brand and be able to manage the growth? So that's kind of the first step. But now there's more and more programs, so you really go through a checklist. You can join a bunch of the founders group. I actually started a founders group, Founders Helping Founders. But there's a lot of resource groups. You can go to Mars 101 and Startup Canada and Venture Park, and women in food entrepreneurs. There's quite a few groups that will give you some, and my Founders Helping Founders group, that's free, and there's, you just need to be a founder, and you're in, to kind of help. And within these groups, you'll kind of see that groups like EDC and BDC and Farm Credit Canada, they have support set up, whether it's women or BIPOC or just founders, to help entrepreneurs. Those are kind of like your first two go-tos. Once you get a little bit more established and you're in the stores and you're selling, then you can go back to your angels and you can raise more money. And then eventually you can raise with venture capitals, with VCs, but they really need to see that you have an idea. So it's a really tough journey, because right now in my founders group, there's over 20 founders that are looking to raise, and money is really, really tight out there because times are tough for new brands. So you really have to be, bootstrapping your costs, really making sure you have like the best possible idea with your positioning, your product, your packaging, um, and then just start your proof of concept. And that's what we did with Love Good Fats. We raised just under 400. We turned the machines on for the first two flavors. We saw how well they were doing in the natural health food stores in the fall of 2017. So then I went back. It was just, employee one, not paid, and a little board, because once you raise money, you need a board. And then I went back and I'm like, we're the number one and two selling bars in all of these stores. More and more people were going to stores and they were saying, have you heard about Susie's Good Fats? And then the stores would be like, yeah, that's my number one selling bar. So then, the phone starts ringing. We raise another 250 for two more flavors, and then another 750 because we rolled out nationally at Loblaws, nationally at Walmart, and then eventually at Costco. And then, oh my goodness, it was just going. It just kind of goes from there, and that's how we went from selling 50,000 a month to 7 million a month within like 24 months. So, but it's a really tough process. There's not a lot of money for founders in Canada. There's not a lot of money for food. For women, I think we get anywhere from 2 to 7% of the VC investments. And I'm lesbian, so LGBT is 0.5% of that. It's really, the world is changing. There's more and more groups like EDC that are making efforts to support diversity. But it's not an easy word out there, because at the end of the day, founders need two things. One, you need money, and two, you do need resources. But you'll hear a lot of founders say, give me money. I don't just need advisors. I need money. But we do need resources too, right? Like we're going to need a CFO, and you kind of need help all around. But without money, it gets really, really tough to start a brand.
Definitely, for sure. And so I don't know, back when you did when you did Good Fats, if crowdfunding was a thing, but I saw that with Better Chocolates, that's something that you recently posted about using crowdfunding. So talk to us about that and how that landscape has changed from originally to now.
When I launched, things were moving so fast, and we got listed at Whole Foods really, really quickly, and we got listed. Then we had a product, and then when we actually got to make the product at the plant, the fats weren't binding, so we actually failed. So then I had to find another co-man. So it was really, really rushed to get production made, and we were already listed at a bunch of natural health food stores. They were like, "Yep, bring your bars." So we didn't have time to do crowdsourcing, but I had looked into it, and it's pretty much the same world. Back then, you had Kickstarter and Indiegogo. You also had Circle Up, I think, that was a crowdfunding for food. They've moved more, and they're a VC, and I've spent a lot of time with them, and I really value the team there. But they're now more in the VC space. So the kind of the same, Kickstarter and Indiegogo, that's been really successful for many, many Canadian brands, started that way. Or Dragon's Den, I guess, is, not crowdfunding, but kind of in the same family where you get a lot of awareness. So we're going to launch with probably with Indiegogo, third week in September, and it allows everyone to get a pre-buy. And the more they buy and the earlier they buy, the more they get, discount and extra product and extra pricing and stuff. So we're certainly going to use that in our marketing mix to allow people to buy and fund the first production. We still have to, we're still purchasing materials this week, and we're still kind of putting ourselves out there. But that's kind of pretty cool in the marketing mix. I'm also writing a book, so that'll be a key part of the marketing mix in Q1 and Q2 to get the word out on good fats and sugar and a little bit of my life, which has been interesting so far. So that's all part of the marketing mix. You try to break through the clutter and get your name out there. And it's a tough world when you're competing against the big food companies.
Oh yeah, that's for sure, definitely. I know. I had an interview with a cereal company, and it's like it's insane, right? There's the three big companies, and then you got to fight your way through. And then we're women, so we got to fight even harder to get a place at the table. So, uh, completely understand that. So Susie, tell us what has been your biggest learning so far with launching a brand from scratch, and what's something that you learned with the first brand, Good Fats, that you've brought over to Better Chocolates, that you're like, I'm doing it again, and I'm not going to do this.
Oh, for sure. I was at the Canadian Women Breakfast at CHFA, and the same question was asked. There's a lot of like that's why you have a few serial entrepreneurs, and they have a lot of learnings from the prior launch. So Good Fats was really a hyper growth brand. So very, very, very fast. We put the product on the shelf, and then we're exceeding the velocities of the category, and then we're ask for more flavors and then more distribution, and it's really going. And to go from $0 a month to 7 million a month is crazy hyper growth in food. So with hyper growth, one of the learnings is with the strategy with hypergrowth is you're looking to get market share. So you have to raise way more money and spend more money, and you need working capital because you're filling the pipeline at all of the big banners. So you need money to just make the product so that you can sell 7 million in a month. And with that strategy, it really goes back to kind of business 101 is you pick your strategy, and the hyper growth strategy has consequences. the founder will get you're going to raise more money, so you're going to get diluted more. You're going to have, more cooks in the kitchen because you have more shareholders. You're going to get institutional shareholders, which are, big chefs in the kitchen. So it starts with, it always starts with a startup is what's the founder's vision and the founder's strategy, and there's implications to those paths. So that's one of the big learnings. Now, every single PowerPoint that I had for the last 6 years was speed and scale. Like, that was the theme. So me, and then the board were all aligned to speed and scale because keto was just taking off, and being first to market. If you're a marketer, you know that being first to market has a lot of value. So our mantra was speed and scale. So we were making decisions that perhaps other founders or other brands would make to slow things down, where you would spend less because you're not chasing revenue as much, and you just want to go slower. All strategies are valid strategies, but they're all connected. So we had hyper growth because of the velocities being so strong, and we had speed and scale, and we rolled out in the US very quickly, earlier than our strategic plan called for, because the brand was performing so well in Canada and we were getting called. So the learning, and then COVID hit, and then COVID hit just month 2 that Love Good Fast was rolling into the US. So that like's pretty tough because a lot of categories benefited from COVID, a lot of food categories, but in bars, people were not on the go, and then the natural food stores got hit really strongly with COVID, as people were just going to one banner instead of 4 or 5 banners. So that really slowed down our growth. Oh, so we had to kind of, right size and cut our marketing spend and kind of slow things down, slow down our innovation. So that's a whole conversation on its own. But the learning is, you start with your strategic plan and your 3-year plan, and it's all connected. In the second launch now, first, the world is very different. So the last 5 years prior to COVID, a lot of the M&A firms, the VC firms, were rewarding revenue even more so than profit. So profit will come once you get the revenue. Now the world is very much on unit economics. So I wouldn't have launched this second company if I didn't have really, really strong unit economics. But I think that the advice of making sure your brand has the right unit economics before you launch is golden. It was in the past, but you could have a brand that had not as strong profit and still launch and get support. Now, first and foremost, make sure you have the right unit economics. So in our case, I'm doing a partnership with the co-man that's making the chocolates. So we share the profit together. So our gross margin and our EBITDA is much, much higher than another company where you would just be buying from the co-man. So I think there's, when you're fully integrated, when you own the plant, you'll have higher margins. And that is what's working really well now that we have, a full, we're really fully integrated all the way to production. So that's, and then we're gonna control the growth a little bit for a bunch of reasons. We have to order like all the materials 6 months before we get paid, and we're making it in Ecuador. So you have to add, instead of 1 week of shipping, it's like 3 and 4. So you have to be more thoughtful and plan things out. So we're just going to manage the growth a little bit. We are planning in, adding a second production line and even adding a second plant as we grow, as we look at our 3-year plan. But unit economics is one of the big learnings. And then I think on a personal side, with my first startup, I was very humble, and I'm the type that surrounds myself. I had a lot of observers and advisors, and we have a large board of directors. But one of the things that I learned is, and I've now, with my founders group, we have like 300 of us. Founders instinct is very, very, very right and bang on. So even though founders all founders and all decks, pitch decks that are looking to raise have a lot of advisors, and that's all cool. But just remember that most of the time your gut is right. So you can, certainly encourage founders to surround yourselves with advisors and board of directors and whatnot. But just kind of remember that you're in the trenches day in, day out. You know your brand better than anybody else. You know your consumer, and when it comes to the big tough decisions, follow your instinct, because pretty much every single time my instinct was right on the big decisions, and it's just because we're a different DNA as entrepreneurs, and I worked at the large companies, but I was always bucking the system. I was an intrapreneur. So I had that DNA of being scrappy and being in the field, in the market, being in the stores. We move way faster. We are way more practical. We connect dots quicker. We get the consumer because we're living with her. We're like in the market with the consumer versus the large corporations. And, I've been there. Like after 20 years, the most time I'd spent with consumers was behind a glass, window in focus groups. Like, I spend 5 years in the stores with consumers and at events, and I'm doing it again now. I have the benefit of, shipping my chocolates to all the, early supporters, and I'm getting feedback. Today I got feedback, yesterday I got feedback. Like it's pretty cool. So one is, your brand strategy, and it's all related. And then two is, surround yourselves with advisors, but follow your gut on the big decisions, because it probably is right.
It's so true. Literally spoke about following your gut not too long ago. I couldn't agree with you more. And to your point about being in the field and just being having a different DNA, it's so funny that you mentioned that, because I interviewed Victoria Marshman, who is launching a slipper brand, and she interviewed, I think, like 500 prospects before even taking her idea to like production and going through the whole thing. And I was saying to her on that interview that I've worked for corporations where we talked to 6 possible customers to get feedback to before launching a new product, and I was just mind blown by how many people she spoke to. It's you're so right. It's so different. The DNA is like completely different than a big box, big manufacturer, like big company.
It's a different world. And, it's really hard for founders, especially right now, is that a lot of the money of angels happens to be, successful men in business that are retired or nearly retired. And it's a big community. And I'm very grateful that there's, especially in Toronto, such a large community. And that they're at a point in their career where they can give back and they can invest. But if you've spent your entire life in larger companies and now you're advising startups, it's a different world. So you depending who you are as a founder, you absolutely need, senior finance, senior brand building. You need that type of advice on your side, because you don't want to go bankrupt. You don't want to make huge decisions. You're building a brand. You certainly want to tap into that. But there's a big difference. It's hard to start a brand from scratch. Even the large companies, they don't launch a lot of brands from scratch because they have a high fail rate. They buy. They wait for us to come up with great brands, and then they buy them. So you just kind of have to, cherish what you have that's special, and then just kind of keep checking in with yourself on the big decisions.
Definitely, yes. It's so important for sure. So Susie, tell us, in terms of the better chocolates, let us know like how you mentioned crowdfunding. How can people get in on the ground level?
Well, for sure, it's an exciting time. It's also the most stressful time because we're not selling yet. We're going to start selling November 30th. Crowdfunding is going to start probably the third week in September. So if you follow me on LinkedIn and on Facebook and Instagram, we'll announce it there. The first 48 hours, you could get the biggest discount. And put your first orders in. And then as soon as the product hits Ontario warehouse, it'll be shipped to your home within moments from our 3PL early December. So we're definitely going to welcome all early supporters. The crowdfunding is really a gift. So we're going to be beating the drum and say, hey, do you want to support us and order the first batch. We're then going to be rolling out into stores in December and January and February. So again, appreciate if you like having your vitamins in a little chocolate every morning or your sleep chocolate at night. It's a dark chocolate, creamy filling. It melts in your mouth and it helps you get to sleep. So we have those products. Then we have the Protein Me and Beauty Me, which are just infused with either protein and fiber. And it's a really filling little healthy snack. Everything is 0 grams of sugar, of course. We don't put any sugar in anything. So it really is going to be like many startups, right? Like go to your local store, your neighborhood store, and support our brand. We happen to think that this is better than gummies, and our little chocolate Protein Me is just a nice little filling chocolate snack. So you'll help feel fuller longer, and you won't have the sugar cravings. So appreciate word of mouth and supporting the brand. And in the meantime, join our email list and put your first order for crowdsourcing as of September.
Amazing. And where can we put our emails? Where can we get the email or join the email list?
Our website is up and running. It's www.thebetterchocolates.com. And right when you pop onto our website, you'll get a pop-up and you can give us your email. I'm also really easy to find on LinkedIn, Suzie Yorke, and I answer all the DMs, but we also have Facebook and Instagram. But the easiest thing is just go onto our website, thebetterchocolates.com, and add your name to the list, so then you won't miss out on any of our exciting events as we scale to our big launch December 1st.
Yes, definitely. Super exciting. Suzie, tell us. So the name of this podcast is Born to Be. Tell us, what were you born to be?
Oh, I was born to be an entrepreneur. Like I've done a lot of things in my life, and I've done 11 Ironmans, and I've done a lot. My life has taken a lot of twists and turns as a single mom. I'm lesbian now. I have 2 kids and 2 stepkids, and I'm French Canadian in an Anglo world. Like I've done a lot of different things, but I was born to be an entrepreneur. I just love this, and I love getting the word out and pushing the envelope of kind of doing and doing things that are different, and really pushing the envelope on getting the message out there. That there are better ways to eat, better ways to support diversity with all of our love and love programs, and supporting the LGBT community, supporting women, just pushing the envelope.
Love it. I love it. On that note, actually, tell us about your founder's world.
So I really started in last fall, and then in the winter, as I was preparing to do my next thing. There was more and more founders reaching out to me, and everyone wanted 15 minutes or an hour, and I'm like, oh my god, like I like there's hundreds and hundreds of founders, and I don't really have time for everybody one on one. So I just kind of had an idea of like, what if I just kind of start informally founders helping founders. I actually got a website and an email address, the $20 GoDaddy stuff. And I had another founder who really kind of, I had this idea, and like many founders, I didn't take the first step. I was like, well, I have this idea, but And then Karen said, like, okay, Suzie, this is a great idea. I'm not going to let you procrastinate longer. So she joined me. So the two, like, with having her by my side, she's like, okay, we're going to have this call. And I was like, I don't have time. So then we like, okay, like, let's get this going. We started really easy at first, and we just did a post. We had about 20 founders. I had their emails. They were all reaching out. Everyone's saying, yes, I would love this. So I just did a post on LinkedIn saying, look, founders helping founders, obviously there's no cost, and it's just really networking and getting us connected. We had like 180 join that week. Now we have about 300. We do one email a month, one meeting a month. We had a live meeting. We had our first summer barbecue. We're going to have a December event. Another founder offered her new head office, so we're going to have drinks and food trucks. And then obviously we're going to get together at CHFA again. And then we're going to get together in October in Vancouver. So it's amazing. We're on WhatsApp, we're on Slack, we're on email. We all have the same needs, 3PL, Amazon, finance, all have the same needs. How do you apply to Shred? How do you get funding? How do you get this grant? Everyone has the same needs. So we're just a little web of information sharing.
Awesome. And so how can a founder today listening get in or help or join?
Super easy. To join, you just have to DM me on LinkedIn your email address. Just because I don't want to do email, or just on LinkedIn, get your email address. And then every Saturday, I just sit down and I take all the new emails, I add them to the list. Once you're on Teams, I just add you, then you just accept, and all the meetings appear in your calendar. So you don't need to do anything. And then you'll just get some emails once a month. We'll send out one next week. It's super easy. And then if you're on Slack and WhatsApp, you can just interact with everybody too if you want more, dynamic involvement.
Awesome. That sounds great. We will definitely put that information in the show notes so that founders listening can, get in on this action and really help support everyone in the community. I love that. So
Perfect.
that's awesome. Great. Suzie, thank you so much for your time today. This was a fun interview for me. I'm super excited and so thrilled that you accepted my invitation to come on. So thank you so much. And we'll be in touch.
My pleasure. Thank you very much.
You're welcome. Take care.
Bye.
Bye bye.